better than Three Stooges. A lot better than Three Stooges. All right, so we're about to go live, everybody. Da, 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 da. Let's wait for that little blue line to go across. And it looks like we're there. All right. Good morning, guys. How are you today? Happy Wednesday. For those tuning in already and watching us, because we already have a good attendance going on. Yeah, when I do an early presentation, that's because I got data and information that I want to share with you earlier in the day for it to be a productive day. So when you see a 10 a.m. Presentation, it's because it's full with data and numbers, digested and chewed down, so it's a little bit more user friendly. I brought in two different people to get two different perspectives to my home brew economic report that I'm gonna just run by you. And for those of you that were watching earlier, they had the opportunity to jump in earlier. I was joking back and forth with Leo. Leo's right there on the chat. That in this fast changing 2020. That we're leaving right now. This, the things change by the day. GDP came out today, and GDP contracted in the first quarter 4.8. There was a school of thought that we were going to contract 3. There was a school of thought that we were going to contract 4. It contracted a lot more than most people thought about. The market is reacting well to it. The market is not concerned by it. I myself feel that is better because there was more disruption at the beginning than at the end. Market is up 400 points. So if the market, you got to look at it this way: the market is up 400 points. That means that there is a perception and in the economy out there and in the consumer sentiment that things are turning that proverbial corner and taking off. My name is Ernesto Vega, broker, founder of Canvas Real Estate. If you're watching me for the pleasure to meet you. I have two co-hosts that I'm going to let them introduce themselves and bring a different perspective to my homebrew economic report that we're going to go through now. Today's presentation is the reopening of the real estate economy and how everybody is talking. Oh, there we go. Look, as we're talking, home sales just came out for March, and home sales were down 21%. Listen, if a lot of data that's gonna come out over the next 30 to 60 to 90 days, you're gonna think of it as scary data. But you gotta understand that me, Ruben, and Joaquin have been sitting at home eating pastelitos and doing nothing else. So the entire country has been doing the same. So there's a lot of data that's gonna come out over the next 30 to 60, maybe 90 days that might look scary, but you gotta find the silver linings, and not the silver lining, the optic and data that will make you understand what we're doing. Okay, so I'm gonna go next to Ruben, so Ruben can introduce himself, explain what he's done his whole life, and that, yeah, you'll understand why I brought him in as a co-panelist for this homebrew economics report.
Well, again, thank you for inviting me. My name is Ruben Crispino. I'm the area manager for CMG Financial. We're one of the largest mortgage companies in the country. Been in the business, different facets of it since 1989. Some of you weren't even born back then. So gone through the ups and downs of the recession, the 9/11 crisis, and obviously the Great Recession. So one of the things that as Ernesto was mentioning, the drop in GDP, you have to understand where these numbers come from and not be overwhelmed by them. So we're in a very fast moving industry and world right now. So remember that the numbers of GDP for the first quarter ended almost 30 days ago. The last day of the first quarter was March 31st. We're almost 30 days out. So we got some more promising numbers coming your way, I guess, as we have the presentation. So I think keep that in mind. Just know the source of the numbers and the time frame of the numbers is very important, that you don't go crazy about these numbers per se. Those numbers are already old.
Yeah, and what we want to share with you, and if you're interested in getting the presentation, send us an email and I'll send it to you. It's information for you to go back to your consumers, buyers, sellers, prospective buyers, and you can present a educated front and it's not the sky is falling. It's not a Chicken Little economy that we're living right now. All right, my next co-host is someone that's been in the industry for as long as I have, on serving in all fronts of different prospects of this industry. So it has a different idea of mine. Like he likes to say, me and you end up at the same point. We just take a whole different routes together. So Joaquin, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Yes, I'm Joaquin Gutierrez. And like Ernesto said, we've been around from about 91. I always forget if it's 91 or 93. Don't ask me why I forget. But I've been in sales since I was 13 years old, corporate America, from retail to advertising sales, which I think I've always said prepared me for this industry, with marketing, computer background also. You know, when you said 20% down for home sales, that's a happy number for me. I want to share something after this because it takes too long to express here, but there's a great story called The Hot Dog Vendor that has to do with sales and coming into times that might be frightening, that you don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to post that later, and I want everybody to look at it so that you can continue to work the right way. So yeah, I've been around since 93. Let's say 93. Let's keep it simple. I'm glad that you invited me to this today. I hope I can share some good info.
Yeah, no. You definitely have a different perspective on what on what we are. So let me share my screen really quick so you can get this presentation going. Fantastic. Boom. Okay, so for all those watching, I wanted to call this presentation the Reopen Market. The reason I wanted to go originally, actually, I was going to calling it. I called it the AC market, and then my wife said to me, "When did we become AC repairmen?" And I said, "No, AC after coronavirus." And she's like, "No, that's not going to work." So I renamed the presentation the Reopen Market. I wanted to call it.
Has the market closed?
Yeah, exactly. So that Reopen Market, and how is real estate going to react to all of this? Like I said, I'm a broker, founder of Canvas Real Estate. Been doing this for 24, 25, I don't even know, 24, 25 years.
It's about 26 years, man.
Yeah. So here's my panelists that they already introduced themselves. As you can see, Joaquin, somehow let me see if I can move you so you're not recorded covering that corner there. Okay, there he is. He has the state seal because if you didn't know, Joaquin is a certified instructor for the state. Okay, so presentation today is how to answer your clients' biggest questions right now. And when I mean clients, I mean buyers and sellers. So you can maintain a balance and they can understand that our industry is not changing. And as we go down these slides that I have put together, I'm going to bring in our panelists to give me their perspective, their opinion. My presentation today it's very simple. I want to make sure not that all those frightening headlines, and Ruben just said it best, are old headlines. And I don't want you to relate. I want you to digest the headlines coming out and look for the gold bits that are in it regarding our industry. This is the time to step up and educate and communicate with our clients. So please feel free to use my presentation after, share with your clients, do your own video with it. If you want to bring me back or bring another panelist back, this is the time to be a trusted advisor in our industry. You got to have your clients' always best interest at heart. Because the questions they're asking you right now, I think is the biggest questions ever asked out of anybody in our industry, either mortgage or real estate. Why? Because like both of my panelists said, the big recession is still fresh in a lot of people's mind, and they feel that hey, is this where we're heading to? So I put some data together and I wanted to share that with you. So how long will it take for us to recover from this COVID-19 economy? So no one can predict how long this is going to last, or how is it really going to affect. But what I sat there and I did some research and I looked at the largest investment houses in the planet. I looked at what the people that manage what is called the smart money are saying about what the economy of the US and the globe will be after COVID-19. Talking about Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, combined, these people manage close to $1 trillion of what is wealth, sovereign wealth, and real wealth, real cash money. So they have the best brains forecastings and looking at data and looking at all of this. So I wanted to look at all of this data and present it to you. And you know, most of them, including PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is one of the largest consulting firms in the US, all of them have one thing that they're agreeing with. And then I'm going to throw it back to both of you on this. They're all saying that our economy will recover to some term of normality 3 months after this is over. Now, I don't know when we're going to call it over, but the minute that we're 3 months over, you know, PricewaterhouseCoopers believes that 3 months after that, you know, we will be back to normal. It's just pointing when that it's over. And I think that over, in my opinion, is when we all feel that comfort level and sentiment of safetiness to go out and do what we're doing. So if any of you guys want to jump on that one.
I'd like to add something to that. Again, I don't feel like our market has stopped, but we are talking about the general market, and I do believe we're going to bounce back pretty quickly. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we have a tendency to forget bad things quickly and get on with good things. So I think that we're going to pick up pretty quick. You know, I was privy to a NAREP study, I think that they put out every year. And Latinos, which we are in a very highly Latino area, in case nobody out there has noticed, have probably per capita the highest amount of businesses, so being self-employed. And because of that, I think our current market, those who have lost their job permanently, some of them are already cleaning homes, some of them are cutting grass, some of them are creating masks in their home. They immediately bounce back by finding another income stream if they didn't already have one or two other income streams. So I think in our area, we're going to bounce back pretty quickly.
All right. So the next slide, hold on. How do I go back? Hold on. The next slide I wanted to touch on the goals. So I mentioned Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley. So like I said, all of these three powerhouses of investment firms in the US, you know, which have the smartest people you're going to say in the planet working for them, analyzing every consumer tick in our economy. If you look at them, they all have literally the same type of projection for what is the economy of the US. Now, I'm not talking about the real estate market. I'm talking about the economy of the United States. They all predict, and if you notice, we're somewhere around here right now. So the reason I wanted to talk to all of you today is because a lot of you are thinking, okay, we hit bottom, we're coming back from here. No. We just strapped on ourselves into the roller coaster, and we're heading down for the next 3 months. The economy is heading down for the next 3 months. That doesn't, but if you notice, that is a skyrocket type of comeback as soon as next quarter ends. You know, everybody's calling it a V-type recovery. I myself, Ernesto Vega, you can write this down. I don't think it's going to be a complete V recovery. I'm calling it the Nike swoosh recovery.
I agree.
I think it's gonna crash, and then it's gonna like the Nike swoosh. It's gonna like curve up. That goes straight up. But that is me. I don't have the brains behind me. So Ruben, what do you think of these three powerhouses thinking that it's going to be a V, like boom, like that?
It's tough to tell, right? I kind of agree with you a little bit as far as, a V recovery seems a little bit too aggressive, but the reality is we're starting to see some good things happening. The government really jumped in quickly, at least on my side of the world, which is the finance and mortgage side. Really, so much quicker than the last time in 2008. They really jumped in there and put things out there to really shore up our liquidity, which is really what this whole country is about. If we have liquidity, we will be able to lend money for people to either buy houses or buy whatever they need to buy, right? So the speed at what they were able to kind of shore up our side of the business so quickly is promising to me. So I tend to agree. I don't see it jumping back as a V, maybe more like a U, but it's definitely coming back. I think a lot quicker than most people think.
A lot of companies changed direction on a dime. They started doing something different, either for free to help us recover, like building ventilators or creating masks, or I was just reading yesterday about another company that was doing, I think they do whiskey or bourbon, and they switched to hand sanitizer, but they were giving it away. I think it was like 1,000 bottles a day they were producing for free. So our economy has a lot of entrepreneurs, and people just jump out and try to do what's best for them at the moment. And they just retool and reskill themselves. They just rediscover, reinvent what they do.
Yeah, we adapt.
We adapt. So I don't see. I don't know about the switch or the V. I don't know. I think that it's going to be pretty quick. I don't know if it's going to be a V or the swish, but I think it's going to be pretty quick. Christmas is coming.
There's a lot of liquidity. We for those listening that weren't here, weren't in our industry in 08 and 09. 08 and 09, the bailout, and I want everybody to understand this. What's happening right now, the capital injection into our economy is not a bailout. The bailout took place because last time, I'm going to get into this and further on, there was unscrupulous loans being done in our industry, and the recession was actually created by the real estate and mortgage industry. The current economic slowdown it's a medical condition. It was a government created situation. So, the bailout back then was barely $1 trillion. This capital injection, from what I heard as of yesterday, we're approaching 6 trillion. So 6 times that much money being injected into the economy at once. So, when they're saying there's a V recovery, and if you look at JP Morgan Chase, they don't even think we're going to go down that much. They're more bullish on they think it's going to take lower to come out of it, right? But they don't see it as going back down that much. So the question that I get asked a lot, and I bet all of you get asked this question, is, will COVID-19 cause a recession? Yes. A recession, by definition, is a contraction on our economy. 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth. So are we gonna face a recession? Yes. We are probably in a recession right now, if it hasn't been called out yet. What you gotta understand as real estate agents, as loan officers, as mortgage brokers, a recession does not mean a real estate housing crisis. A recession does not mean a collapse in values. A recession it's something completely different. The thing is that we all lived through the 2008, 2009, and we assume that a recession is leads to a market collapse, and it's 2 different components, 2 different wheels in our economy. So I want everybody to understand, yes, that because every business has been shut down, because every component of our economy has been put on hold for some 30 days, some 45 days. We're beginning to open up in some states. Yes, that's causing an economic recession. Now, is that going to lead to a housing crisis? I truly don't think so. And my next graph is what I wanted to show you so you'd understand what is it that Ernesto is talking about. the 1980 and 81 recessions, which Ruben, were you doing appraisals back then with the savings and loans? No,
Not that old. Not that old. Yeah.
you're not that old. Okay, so the 80,
I think I'm the oldest
1980.
one in the world, but not that old.
So
I think
for all of you guys listening that are
in high
younger
school.
or older than Ruben, the 80-81 recession, Leo, this is for you. So the 80-81 recession was unregulated banks, savings and loans were not regulated institutions like banks were. There was a lot of unscrupulous lending done back at that time. And that created a collapse in a couple of those institutions. And the collapse of those institutions led to a recession in the US. Now, if you look at real estate values during that recession, real estate values went up 6% in 1980 and 3.5% in 1981. That was unheard of.
What was the interest rate back then, Ruben? Do you know offhand?
I think that's the time when we were doing 18% or close to it.
Yeah, I think so.
So exactly, but you know why? There was no inventory. So prices went up because there was no inventory. Now the 91, go ahead. The 91 recession did add a contraction on house values of almost 2%. The 91 recession, I think, was more of a manufacturing recession in the US. And that one did create a fluctuation in values. The 2001 recession, which was a September 11 recession, which was similar to now, a sort of an entire shock to our economy, an entire shock to our consumer confidence, and an entire shock to everything that we do as a nation. That had a huge pause for about 3 to 4 months in our country, right? And we went to a recession for 2 quarters. Real estate values after September 11 went up 6.6%. So if you're going to think about that as a guideline, because we got to look at history to come up with guidelines, we had another shot up in values after September 11. 2008, to me, you got to look at for what it is. 2008 was a economic contraction created by the mortgage industry and the real estate industry, right? So did values go down at that recession? Yes. But at that moment, values, it was not that values were overinflated. There was a lot of unregulated lending that was taking place. So just to give you an example, prior to the 2008 recession, there was $800 billion that were taken out of home equity lines of credit. Put that into perspective. Everybody in America used their houses as an ATM, cashed out, took vacation, bought a boat, bought a ski lodge, bought another boat, took a 1-year trip around the world. So everybody took advantage of the surplus we had in values, right? And took out the money out of their house. What happened? At that moment, you could refinance, Ruby, you could do a line of credit for what, 60% of your house value?
You mean today or back then?
No, 2008.
Oh, no, you can go 125%, remember?
Yeah.
So
We talked about
125% all your house value on an equity line of credit. So what happened? The minute that things began to stumble and you had already taken out all the equity of your house, you said, I'm out, I'm walking out, right? So values contracted almost 20% in a way, but it's not because of the recession. It was because, if you want to look at it that way, the liquidity had already been sucked out of the market. I want both of you to give me your take on this recession versus values. Ruben, I know you don't with a former appraisal many years ago, so I know you went through some of these.
Well, there's usually something that generates or happens, whether it's coronavirus, the 2008 situation, 9/11. Sometimes it's just a law that gets passed, a tax ramification. If you look at the 1991 recession, it really started in 86. In 86, there was a tax change done that really affected commercial real estate, and that's where that came from. But I don't know if you guys remember what happened right after 1991. In 1992, we had, St. Andrew, which is Hurricane Andrew, that really hit us more prevalent here in this market and really changed everything in our industry here in South Florida. So, as you can see the up and downs, I mean, I know you have a slide later on, which I had the privilege to see earlier, which is really my favorite one, which really means, very similar to what you talked about in the previous slide with the V recovery. Things are moving faster. They just are. And I think that, it all goes back to the economic principles of supply and demand. And we've talked about this many times. The supply is still not there. So we're not going to have an oversupply where we see a huge, decrease in prices. As a matter of fact, earlier today, I forget her first name. Her last name is Olnick. She's like the CNBC commentator for housing and real estate and mortgages. And even though the pending home sales went down 21%, pricing has not gone down. That's nationally. So that was as of this morning. So yeah, exactly like you said, we may be in a recession already based on the decline in GDP, but we're not seeing it yet.
Joe?
The board put out its report on numbers and everything was positive. The only thing that we had as a little setback, and I don't see it as attributed to the COVID-19, was that but condo prices had gone down on average for the quarter. But home sales were good, and the numbers were up. The prices were up. I think it was I can't recall if it was 5%, 6%, but the prices went up. This morning, I was sharing with you a little bit earlier. I posted a market report, and I picked Coral Springs. But you could have picked anywhere in Dade or Broward or Palm Beach for the reports. The first thing that pops up on the screen in red is a negative number, and it's for inventory, not prices. I think the price changes if you go from different parts of the market. And now our KV Corp produces those squeeze pages with the market reports.
Yes.
So you could do it down to the granular data of a neighborhood like Country Walk or Pembroke Palms or whatever that place is called. I'm not a big Pembroke Pines guy. You can go granular, but the changes in prices, if they go down, are like half a percentage point, which has to do with the inventory being reduced also, because you don't know what homes are being taken off the market and stuff. So I don't see any changes as far as prices are going. And I do know that the snake oil salesmen are out there pitching doomsday scenarios so that they could sell some kind of system or to give you the inside scoop on how to buy properties that are going to go under. That's, avoid those people. They're wrong. They're totally wrong. For now. I mean, looking at these numbers. Yeah, for now. One of the things that I like about this panel that you have, I think the three of us share a passion for this business. We've been in it for a long time. We really are grateful to it. But we don't look at things with a predetermined disposition. We don't come into this to confirm that we're right, that it's going to be better or that it's bad. We just come in, look at the numbers and get a feel for it, and then we share that. So, I think whoever's out there listening to us are getting a good mix, because we're not here to try to make things appear a certain way. We're looking at the raw facts, the data, and reporting them. And all three of us are looking at this as just a hiccup, having gone through so many other things. So, yeah, I don't see price changes.
So everybody else watching on social media right now, if you could do me a favor and click that share button. If anybody that's watching us live right now, so we can get this message across as many people as possible. So the other question we get asked a lot is, hey, and anybody asking questions at the end, we're gonna go write your questions down. We're gonna answer all your questions at the end. I just want to go through all the slides. There's a lot of slides. And as I'm sitting here, I just, Ruben, I just got sent one slide that I'm gonna save for the last. It's so, you gotta love, first of all, you gotta love numbers. If you don't love numbers, wow. So someone just combined mortgage, did a cross study instantly, applications with sales volume. And it's got some mind-blowing number that just came out. So
yeah, I saw this.
Are we in 2008 again? That's what everybody's asking. Are we in 2008 again? our short sale is going to flood the market, our foreclosure is going to flood the market. The numbers right now don't say that. 2008 was an economic contraction created by real estate and real estate only. What happened is, as real estate investment collapsed, and I'm not talking about housing. What happened is bonds, which was what, Ruben sells a mortgage, it gets packaged and it gets sold as a bond. As those bonds began to fail, those bonds affected banks, and it just was a tumble effect, boom, 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 like a domino effect that continued. So real estate is what created the 2008 crash. It was nothing else, it was that. So what value is going to be affected at that moment? Yes. But if you're looking at numbers right now, equity, I think it's 37% of all households in the US don't have a mortgage. 37%. And then the next 50% has close to 30% of equity. So if you want to just take that 50% and take South Florida and just look at South Florida, they have what, $147,000 in equity? So 87% of the market has either $137,000 in equity, or they don't own their house at all. So how can we have a collapse when there's so much equity? Remember I said a minute ago that 800 plus billion was sucked out of home equities prior to 2008. I ran the numbers last night and we're at 237 billion. That's a big number, but it's nothing compared to 800. So yeah, there is 237 billion and home equity lines of credit out there. But I think, Ruben, I don't know, to me, that's a more realistic number than 800.
Oh, definitely, obviously, yeah. We don't have the I guess the products that we had back in 2008, where you could borrow, like Joaquin and I had talked about, 125% of your home value. I mean, you were already in the whole 25%, the moment you did that. So, and we've talked about, the guidelines as far as underwriting have been so much stricter over the last 10 years or 20 or 12 years or so, that it has stopped a lot of the unscrupulous buying and a lot of the investor purchasing properties that don't make sense. They're underwater immediately, or they don't cash flow. It's been a much different, much more conservative underwriting standard. So in a sense, the mortgage market is a lot stronger beyond the numbers that you're mentioning, because, right, I mean, 30% of the people basically don't even have a mortgage on their house. There's nothing there's nothing to defer. There's nothing to have a forbearance on. There's nothing to worry about.
Back to what you were saying, Ernesto, at the beginning of this, about the way that the market was trying to recover, or they really didn't do a good job back when the two parties were exchanging ownership of what was going on. That almost $1 trillion, I think it was $980 billion that they put into TARP, literally went to the banks to save them, and they turned around and started buying each other up. The properties that were being sold at the beginning were being sold in bundles to people, cash, which were very wealthy investors. And then when those were unwrapped, I think the minimum bundle had like 23 homes in it or something like that. Once those were unwrapped and they started selling them as individual homes, the people buying those again were buying cash. I remember showing property back then, and the agents that had listed the properties were literally ripping like carpets or flooring out of one part of the house so that FHA could not be part of the loan. So I remember thinking that was such a great opportunity if that TARP money had been taken and used for first-time home buyers, and that would have generated, I think, a quicker recovery. But totally different collapse, totally different recovery. There's really nothing to compare, like you're saying, for what happened then to what happened now.
Thank you, gentlemen. So, to me, like I said, today's market looks nothing like 2008. And then when we look at this graph of economic contractions in the past and recoveries, we take a peek at the 2006 to 2017, what we call the Great Recession. And we did have a 9.9 contraction that, it began to, it gradually went down for about 2 years, and then it took a longer time to come out of it. And then I threw in there the Great Depression, because some people talk about, we're heading to the Great Depression. You mentioned those doomsday sayers, and I see a lot of that in social media. If you want to understand why the Great Depression was what it was, you need to understand that what accelerates a recession to a depression is that non-ability of credit. When we went through the Great Depression, there was no credit available. No credit to buy, no credit to build, no credit for GE to build plants. There was no credit. So because nobody trusted anybody. So there was no interlending sort of trust. So since there was no credit, the economy took such a long time to recover. I mean, almost a decade, because everything that was built on cash. So only those who had cash had the ability to come back, right? And Ruben, I put on the slide specifically because I know me and you have late conversations every day. Your wife and my wife are like, what are these two talking every night? But you have shared some stuff with me, and I have shared some stuff with you. I have seen a very proactive, and I don't care what side of the government you're in right now. I have seen a very proactive government to make sure that the availability of credit exists on the mortgage side, specifically from taking off the burden of forbearance loans of your books to making sure that liquidity exists. Without getting into the nitty-gritty, can you explain quickly how credit is still now better than ever when it comes to mortgages, and how those news that broke out that the certain loans were not going to be available only to specific buyers? It was just a Morgan Wells. I think I saw it as a raising capital strategy. So.
Well, just so you know, when we speak late in the afternoon, I tell my wife it's Jake from State Farm.
Best joke ever.
Well, but so yeah, we discussed this already. So a lot of good things are happening, and when the economy is so big and so complex that when we try to fix something, right, a hole opens up somewhere else, where you plug a hole and opens up a hole somewhere else. So the first hole the government tried to plug in was allowing forbearance, right, and that created a huge issue at first, specifically with servicing portfolio values and just who's going to make the payment to the investor on this. So again, they had to go back in and plug in other holes. But again, it's such a big market that there's so many little, this affects that, et cetera. So it was hard to predict all the situations that would arise from one thing. But they've done a great job. I mean, this has been something that, used to take, years for them to figure out or come up with a solution. Every time there's, the little hole opens up somewhere else, they've come in and they've made a change. Now, it's not perfect by any means, but some great things are happening as far as liquidity. First thing, I love this graph. This is my favorite graph that we have in this presentation, because I think it shows something that we've been talking about quite a bit. Not only is it a combination of 1929, 2006, and now 2020, is that we live in a very small, very fast world, right? So years ago, if I wanted to communicate, with you in 1920, I had to write you a letter, and it would get into the post office, and it would take that long for that letter to get to you. Back in 2006, obviously we had telephones and cell phones and all that stuff. Now we can communicate, we can get on a plane and get to anywhere in 2 seconds. So my opinion is this graph clearly indicates how quickly things are going to happen, how the probability of this V graph or this V recovery is more likely than not, because of, it's obvious that the technology, the smaller world, as they call it, makes this even possible, right? That being said, as far as the liquidity side of it, what we're seeing is, again, the government has stepped in and has helped out the servicers to create the liquidity, specifically on the government-backed loans. Those are the traditional loans, conventional FHA, VA, USDA loans. So as far as us being able to make those loans and sell them, it's been fine. We haven't had a big issue with that. But more importantly, what we've seen recently and mostly this week is now the non-QM lenders are heading back, and you and I spoke about that a little bit yesterday. And the non-QM loans are things like the bank statement loans, the jumbo loans, the foreign national loans. Those are loans that really went away almost immediately when the crisis first hit, and we're starting already to start seeing places where these loans are coming back, which is awesome news. It just means that we're getting liquidity to these types of products too, which in our market, in our South Florida market, is extremely necessary to offer these products to our self-employed buyers, like Joaquin says, and our foreign nationals. Huge market down here, right? So I'm thrilled to start seeing these types of loans coming back. The great thing is, when we're talking about the decrease in GDP, and I mentioned that was a number that was effective as of March 31st. Well, I can tell you a number that is really promising for us that was effective as of last Friday. So week over week, mortgage applications on purchases went up by between 12 and 13% from the previous week. So that's not on refis, that's on purchase applications. So from 2 weeks ago to last week, the applications that we took as an industry for purchase mortgages went up almost 13%. I think that's huge. It tells you a lot about the fact that our industry is in better shape to weather the storm, and we're already doing a great job weathering the storm compared to the crisis that we had in 2008.
Can I ask you a question, Ruben?
Yeah.
I don't remember back in 2008 if there were any, if reverse mortgages were already on the market, and has that had any effect on the way things will be handled through this? Is that a safety net for the older people in our market?
It is, and just like we mentioned earlier that they changed underwriting standards in general in the mortgage market, the reverse mortgage market really got a complete change. I mean, it doesn't even look like it anymore. So it's again to protect the consumer, in this case, the people over the age of 62. So looking forward, we do expect an uptick in reverse mortgages, depending on what ends up happening with the stock market, right? Where people's retirement could be hurting a little bit from where we were a few months ago. We may see people take advantage of the reverse mortgages to solidify their retirement, possibly. So we're thinking about that. But Ernesto always says, and all the powers that be say, the Dow Jones is not the U.S. economy. I believe there's only 50 stocks in the Dow Jones, Ernesto, correct?
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to keep that in mind. But yeah, we see a possible uptick on the reverse mortgage market in general. We were seeing that anyway with the aging population. So I don't foresee that changing much now.
All right. So my next slide is the question or questions. Will COVID-19 cause a surge in foreclosures? 25 million Americans already lost their job because of this stay-at-home order. Many people fear that this is going to be 2008 all over again. There's no denying that this massive loss of jobs, is something to deal with, and it's a serious thing. Most economists believe that this is not going to be there for long, right? Most mortgage companies, and that's what Ruben was saying, the programs are coming back, don't see that happening. I'm going to give you my interpretation, and I'm going to let both of my panelists jump in about this. So I think, Ruben, you said 25% were already in forbearance of all mortgages in the U.S.?
No.
No? Was it 25 or 2.5%?
No, it's more than that. It's
Okay.
I believe the figures are old though. I wouldn't put a lot of. I think the last figure I got was 12%.
So let's put the numbers aside. So for us to have a surge in foreclosures, right? We need people to stop paying their mortgages, and after paying their mortgages, then banks come in and take them legally. If anybody that have filed a forbearance has put pause on their mortgage, there's some people doing 3 months, 6 months. I've heard of some doing 12 months, and all forbearance are different. They're not. There's not a one standard form for lenders. Every lender has a different forbearance. But let's walk down a worst case scenario. somebody does a 12-month forbearance because they're unemployed and they're not going to be employed, that job is disappearing, right? So that homeowner, based on the information we talked about, could have $80,000 to $137,000 in equity on their home right now. So by putting pause on their mortgage payments with a forbearance, they bought themselves 6 months to hire you, listening to me, real estate agent, to sell that house for them, right? And due to the lack of inventory, like Joaquin was just saying, that the biggest issue we have is lack of inventory. Now, due to the lack of inventory, there's gonna be buyers available for pent-up demand for that house. So you got to understand that no matter the number of people that stop paying, there's not that they're stop paying, they're all getting forbearance agreements, right? So there's going to be time to get these homes sold traditionally without going to the lenders. Now, if you want to take a percentage of those homes that is not going to get absorbed in the economy, and the 6 months pass by, it's going to take another 6 months before the bank actually seizes that property. And in those 6 months, that home still has equity. So if you're waiting for an uptick in foreclosures, you're looking at April 2021 to begin to see those numbers, right? So it's not today. You're not looking at, June, 100 for sales hitting the market every day. That is not happening. So like Joaquin said, stop buying those short sale courses that they're selling you online. They just want your money. If we become a short sale economy, I am going to tell it to you. If you're a Canvas agent, I'm going to do a meeting and tell you, oh, hey, let's go. Time to learn how to do short sales. I don't see it happening. I discussed with Ruben how many homes are in Broward County 90 days late. And I cannot tell you the number, but it's less than 1,000. And the entire
700.
county. Huh?
It was like 700.
Yeah. So
And
less than 700. So there's less than 700 homes in Broward County that are 90 days late. Not forbearance. This is not forbearance. There's people that have not paid their mortgage. 90 days late is less than 700. And all of those have equity in their homes. So, and that is, like Ruben said, that's a seasonal number. That's normal at this time of year. So for those of you expecting 100 short sales a day in the market and the next, and when June comes along, I don't see it. I truly don't see it. And the minute I see that shift, I'll be here telling you, hey, it's time to learn how to do short sales. But I don't see foreclosures coming in our market. Remember, I'm talking about Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. Real estate, all real estate is local. I'm not talking about Orlando. I'm not talking about Iowa. I'm not talking about Oklahoma. I'm talking about Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. The numbers that I look at is our economy, what affects our pocket. I don't see a surge in foreclosures at all.
I want to add something to that in español, because
Okay.
we have a lot of Latinos here. Las personas que están vendiendo es el miedo. Lo que están tratando de asustarte y venderte programas son en español. The people that are out there trying to do the snake oil salesman, the classes and the fear, and they're trying to get first-time investors that think the market's going to come down, are in Spanish. Almost all of them are people in Spanish that are trying to take advantage of people that are not as familiar with the history and the way the market works here. So I want to make sure that people understand what you just said. If you're trying to prepare and keep our people ready for what's coming, so you wouldn't be giving us bad information or trying to persuade people that things are going to be good if it was going to hurt you in the long run. It's going to hurt all of us if we are being misdirected. So this is definitely something that people have to understand.
Thank
No
you.
se asusten.
So then this one is, we had a favorite slide. This is my favorite slide. And remember, it was not 30, it was 37%. So we walked into this stay-at-home order, right? We walked into this with different numbers than at any other time that we have gone to as a crisis. So 37% of every single home has no mortgage, debt zero. They don't owe. They don't. They don't owe a penny. So that is huge. Unemployment in Dade and Broward County was below 3%, right? And I know the unemployment, some people are saying it's going to hit 40%, it's going to hit 20%. Just like the real estate economy market and stuff needs a six to 7 month inventory to have a balanced market, right? For prices not to go up and so buyers can find product. You need between 6 and 7 months of inventory. Our economy needs 7.5. 7.5 could be 8, 7. That's the number. Unemployment at all times for the economy to function. Because if you have employment that we had before, less than 3%, salaries go up, income goes down for businesses go out, and then the job goes out, right? So you need a balance of 7.5, maybe 8% unemployment to keep the economy balanced. So let's look at August. Let's fast forward to August. Everything reopened. Everything is moving along. Things are still slow, and we have an unemployment of 10%, right? 10% is only 2 points above what you need to maintain a normal economy. Is it the end of the world? No. So you got to understand that 2%, it's only 2% less amount. Let's look at it this way. Less amount of buyers that you're going to be working with. So the reason I like numbers and I like talking numbers to you guys is, if you look at things, I think it was Joaquin, was Floyd Wigman that said reduction to the ridiculous is the best way to do a presentation. Was it Floyd Wigman?
I wasn't a Floyd Wigman guy like you were, but so I don't remember. I have heard that before though.
Yeah. So when we reduce things to what they are, you understand that, oh my God, it's not the end of the world. So if we need an 8% unemployment for things to be normal, and we're sitting at 10 when August comes around, we have 2% more unemployment that is required in a normal economy in a functioning country. Guys, 2% less sales. It's not the end of the world. Truly, it's not the end of the world. So that's why I love this slide. Sorry, I went in a rant, guys. So go ahead and take it from there.
No, it's all good.
I think we covered this, no?
Good.
Yep.
The mortgage market. That's what we brought Ruben in. All indicators are forecasting mortgage originations to take a big hit. And Ruben just said that last week they were up 14%. Things change so rapidly, Ruben, that as we're speaking, like I said, there were analysts looking at the data. This week, when you look at last week from last week to this week, you look at new home sales and applications of buyers, not refinancing. Buyers is what we care about. Yes, we hit 20% down 2 weeks ago. We're already up on that. So we're 20% up from the bottom. I'll send you, Ruben, the slide so you can share. I might post it at the end on this chat. So applications, buyer application from last week, that was up 14%. From that, it's up 20% this week. Buyer application. So buyers have realized how to do business. Joaquin keeps saying business is being done. Business is being done. You got to do it in a safely manner. Follow protocol, follow procedures, use the tools that you have. We at Canvas have invested a lot, so you will be completely virtual and be able to function from wherever you are in the planet, and even the moon if you can get a good strong signal at the moon. But and we have partnered with CMG, which has an unbelievable not a pre-qualifying app. It's an entire service application from application to closing app. Listen, I used it myself. It's a great way to communicate, to load documents, to keep you updated. So, we brought in partners that have the tech already. And before nobody knew this was going to happen. we wanted to bring in tech to make your life easier, right?
Yeah, we didn't have to adjust at all. We had everything already here.
Right.
The only adjustment, you gotta make sure everybody uses it.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Now's the time to learn how to use those,
Now's the time to
technology, right?
home mortgage and sales did contract. Like Ruben said, they went up 14% last week. Applications went up 20% from last week. So buyers are coming back. Buyers are truly coming back. And let me show you what that looks like. Now let me go to the other slide. So that you see that last slide right there, which I'm going to share with everybody at the end. That big bar at the end, you see the big drop. Those 3 weeks prior to, and then we reduced a little, and then we bought 14, and then we come up 20% on top of that. That is a strong demand of buyers, not refinancing, strong demand on buyers. Tracking our online traffic, and Joaquin said, you got to look at the online traffic. We are averaging between 12 to 20,000 unique visitors, detail views, and all of our inventory a week. That's 20,000 unique visitors, detail views, and all of our inventory. So the buyers haven't gone anywhere. Where have you gone? All right. So was this the one that you really love, Ruben?
No, it was 2 ago, but
2 ago. Okay. So the chart I'm showing you right now is single family home sales, and Joaquin, it's new home sales has always been his thing. And what I'm showing you here is the 3 different schools of thought or 3 different economists. One of them is Wall Street Journal compilation. The other one is University of Chicago. So you have the red is worst case scenario, the dark gray is and the light gray is fantastic. So I want to show you new home sales, and for us real estate professionals, we got to understand new home sales. It's A, extra income, and B, extra inventory. So if there's less new home sales, what does that mean for us, Joaquin?
Bigger commissions.
Ta-da! So everybody is sort of saying it's in the same school of thought. From the first quarter to about half the year, new home sales will collapse below 40%. There's no pretty way of saying that. That's what I'm saying is when everybody's telling you, oh, we're good. No, we are now, we're in the roller coaster and we're about to go down. So now is when we're beginning to take that dive down. And if you notice, all school of thought agree in the same way. But then when you look at middle of the year, July forward, new home sales, 2 different schools of thought of the economists believe that we will go back to almost the same volume of new home sales as we had last year. There's only a group of economists that thinks that we will be 20% below. And Joaquin, since you've been involved in new home sales for so long, is a 20% drop. Let's stick with the middle of the ground economists. Is a 10% drop in volume on sales a number that will keep Lennar, D.R. Horton, and Centex up at night, or their business are built for boom that kind of impact?
Both of those giants that we discuss always, which are D.R. Horton and Lennar, every time we discuss them, we talk about them, and historically, they were around for 2006, 2008, and they're still here. So what they didn't know, to answer your question, no, that's not a huge impact. But these companies are always trying to better from the year before, because that their stocks are traded. They don't want to show losses, but they've always been resilient. So what will happen is they will adjust their construction. They will look at things that they might consider as excessive in a property. For instance, those curved entrances might become squared because it's cheaper. The countertops might be changed in size. They might change the brand of stainless steel refrigerators and appliances. They will be able to maintain price or be able to give more incentives so that they can make up that price, but they won't stop selling. They will avoid at all costs dropping down, and they have so many different ways of. And first, the first thing you said was true. Commissions go up. They're already at 5 and 6% because it's not that they're in a panic, but they cannot have inventory sitting around. They need to get rid of what they already have. Once that home has a CO, a certificate of occupancy, it becomes a cost to them, not a profit. So they need to move that stuff. DR Horton right now has a nice inventory. I'm not very familiar with Lennar. I still have a lot of friends at Horton. But they have raised commissions. The incentives are there. They're also throwing in a different packages to sweeten the pot. So I don't know that number would be realistic. I'm being very positive, thinking that we're still going to keep moving. And again, this is a national number.
Yes.
Closer to home, we still have an inventory problem.
Yes.
And if people have to stay home, that inventory level's not going to want to transition at the moment. So the only best place to go to throw it all together is new construction. And by the way, that was a point that came up in one of the conversations that I had. I don't know if you can, okay, my connection got unstable there. But right now, when you're calling, those of you that are out there showing properties, which I don't know if you're making up these appointments to get away from your family and get out of the office, the house, but there's a lot of people showing property. If you're trying to make appointments and the families don't want people to come to their house, you're not going to have that problem with new construction. They want you to come. They want you to make an appointment. They want you to wear your mask, and you're going to see vacant homes. So you're not disturbing anybody, and it's easier to make the appointments.
So one thing
I don't
about
see
the
those-
graph and the next graphs that are going to follow, it's one thing. I keep saying that the balance of 2020, it's going to be a roller coaster if you're looking at the graphs up and down. But I want you to look at first at January 2021. New home sales, if you want to go by the best case scenario, from last year's volume, it's going to skyrocket 55%. I don't think ever, Joaquin, in the history of new home sales, they've gone up 55% in a year. Why? Because there's that much pent up demand. And two school of thoughts are the same. Even the worst case scenario, projection take us to a 19% appreciation of new home sales. When you get to the end of 2021, after that, all of that pent-up demand is gone, new home sales, and this is only new home, not resales, what we mostly do. This is only new home sales. And then it will drop after that demand disappears. And then if you go from 2021 to 2025, everybody's projecting between a 2 to 5% volume on new home sales, which is, a normal growth. I mean, a 5% growth is a normal growth.
Looking at the numbers that way, these people that put together these reports aren't always with their boots on the ground in the business. So we read, I think a week ago, and you read the number that there were less permits being pulled.
Yes.
So they might be determining that there will be an inventory issue because of that coming into these months ahead. That is not true. So what happens is these companies pull the permits and they don't release them until they're ready. So right now they're probably sitting on a pile of permits, but they're waiting to get rid of their current inventory. They could also not completely stop. They stop, like you also said in one of our last meetings, they do have, some companies did cease construction. They're only building the ones that are sold already, but some of these companies can't do that. So they have to continue construction. But even if they stop pulling new permits, they are still sitting on permits, and they will have enough permits to keep building. And when the market starts to look better, they'll start pulling permits again. I don't think there's going to be an issue other than the issue we already have, which again, we keep going back to, is that we don't have enough homes to begin with. So it's going to look short, but they're not going to let themselves get hurt.
All right, so let me go to my next slide, which is, because we're moving along. And this that was sales, this is permits, right? So when you look at a permits, right? When you look at a permits, all right, we lost Ruben for a second. Hold on. I got
I'm here, but I just,
yeah, because you went hold on. I gotta hold on one second.
I'm having some Wi-Fi.
He's having croquetas. He doesn't want us to see him. That's what it is.
Okay, go ahead, Ruben.
Yep. And I don't have to share them either.
You got your cam? Can you get your camera on?
I do. Trying to, it won't let me.
It won't let you. Oh.
You guys are probably turning each other, like you're turning his on and he's turning it off when he tries to hit on. That's what happens with me on this.
Let me try again. Hold on, Ruben. No, I
I can
think.
hear you guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
we
hear
hear
you.
you.
There we go.
There he is.
There we go.
Okay.
No big deal. The-
Right, everybody hear me?
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to.
Yeah.
Okay, so so now this is building permits, right? Before it was no new home sales. This is building permit. This is new homes being built, and this one goes in line with Joaquin was just saying. They're gonna stop building homes for between now and August, July, August. Then July and August, everybody agrees with them. They're gonna begin to build homes again, and then if you want a time. So for those of you that are working with renters right now, that their lease is going to be up in the first quarter of next year, right? Someone that's renting now, that's when you want to time those new home sales, because that's when that picked up demand is going to get again sometimes at the beginning of next year. So what does this mean for home prices 2020 and going forward? You know, I expect listing prices, medium prices to dip a little in the spring because we're still coming out of this contraction. And you know, sellers, they usually put their house in February and March are gonna price the houses a little bit more aggressive for it to move, for that product to move. I think that values, you know, there's this thing called sales volume and appreciation. I think appreciation will be somewhere in an upswing. So this graph right here is you gotta take it for what it is. This is prices, right? Not volume of sales, prices. So prices. We began the year because of Joaquin just said we began the year over say 0. We began the year at 4.5% in South Florida, right? Now, like I said, there's 3 different schools of thoughts when it comes like we have 3 different opinions right here. This is a bunch of economists and they all have a different opinion. They all agree that the roller coaster is going to head down the hill all the way, and when it comes to pricing, till the end of the year, right? So till December, the roller coaster, it's going to go down to the end of the year. But look at the graph. The worst case scenario economists are putting up 1%, 0.01% price contraction. 0.01%. The rest of the economists believe 1.5 to 2.5. When we end 2020, prices will be up from last year 1.5 to 2.5%. There's only one school of thought that says, hey, you know, prices are going to drop not 1%, 0.01%. But then I want you to smile right now and I want you to look at 2021, right? You're looking at 2021, January, February, March 2021, those values, and it goes back, same thing with new home sales. That is when the volume of sales is going to take off, right? And that is when you're going to see prices spike up. And we're not talking 2008, 30% appreciation a year crazy, because that is not a reality, because salaries don't go up 30% a year. But we will have 2021 to 2022, a strong 5% year per year appreciation. So understand this graph for what it is. We began the year, first quarter, Joaquin called it, 5%, you said 5% with South Florida, Joaquin?
Yeah, that's what I saw.
So the rest of the country, we always do better than the rest of the country. So the rest of the country began the year at 4 to 4.5% appreciation first quarter. Everybody says that second quarter of the year, that appreciation is going to come down. But even the worst case scenario, guys, are going 0.01 below where the prices were last year. So, you know, for those of you posting 2020 values will drop 30%.
Yeah.
Send me a private message. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a chat. Show me what data you're looking at that I'm not, because I want to educate myself so I can educate, you know, our agents. Because when I'm looking what everybody is presenting to me, yes, prices from where they began, from that 5% that Joaquin called, are going to come down. But I'm going to come down to the baseline of last year.
We talk about always be closing, right?
Yeah.
So on the last slide, you touched on something right before you left. You said that if you have people that need to move out soon that are renting and so forth,
yeah,
you should be calling those people, if you're listening to me, and saying, forget your lease, let's move into a new construction deal right now. And they're going to tell you, if I break my lease, I'm going to lose the deposit. And let's say somebody's paying $2,000 a month. They might lose $4,000, but they're going to get $20,000, $15,000 in incentives to do that. So I don't know about the rest of the people out there. If you would not trade $4,000 for $15,000 and your own home now, instead of later when inventories become more glutted again and the incentives drop and the prices go up, call those tenants and move them now. Thank you. I just needed to get that out.
So what he was talking about is this. If you look, this is January 2020, right? So if you want to go down the middle, let's take the middle economists, not the unicorn and butterflies economists, and not the you know, the world's going to end economists. You know, they're all saying February next year is when all of that pent up demand, boom, it's going to head out there to new home sales. And then when you look at prices, you know, same thing. If we go back to 2021, February 2021, if we go to the middle of the gown, guys, this year will still appreciate 1.5%, right? And for those saying, hey, 1.5% appreciation, that's nothing. Go put those $300,000 in a CD right now with any bank, and at the end of the year, you paid your CD cost you negative 0.36% after fees. So if you take those $300,000 and put them in a bank, you have negative appreciation. That if you go and put them in an investment property and you don't even rent it, you just let it sit there. Middle of the ground economists are telling you 1%, 1.5%. Better case scenario is telling you 2%. I'm calling a 2% appreciation this year. And then you look at going forward after that, we're going to go to a 5%. And then when you go all the way to 2024, you know, everybody's forecasting a 3%. It is very funny because you notice how the yield changes when we pass 2023. Worst case scenario economists think 2023 forward appreciation will be 4.5 to 4%, and the best case scenarios are taking you to 3.5%. So you gotta take the data, you gotta make your own decision. But I want to share the data with you so you are educated on where our economy is and where real estate, what the three of us do for a living, it's at. So this graph to me it's it. You should put this graph as your screensaver and look at it every day. As soon as social distancing is gone, everybody says to you, so how's the real estate market? Let me show you what everybody's talking about. To me, that's the best graph out there right now, because it's a compilation of different perspectives, different analysis. But if you notice, they all agree the same. 2020, like Ruben said, I think it was the first word out of his mouth. A lot of scary data is gonna come out over the next 90 to 120 days, but it has to, because we've been locked in our homes for 45 days. So there's no way for rosy comments to come out. But as soon as that trends, it comes back up right away. So in closing, is it hard to be a real estate agent right now? Yes, but not because you're unemployed. It's because we have to learn how to do business in a different manner. But remember, the governor of Florida deemed you an essential services. Ruben, are you an essential service too?
They say I am.
Are you cool like us?
Yeah, well, I'm cool like you.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
you
I don't
are
think it's about the mortgages. I think it's about.
So please,
Yeah, we're
take
essential.
take this presentation, share with everybody that you want to. Let everybody know numbers, and if the numbers change, I'll be coming back. I think I'm already working on one for the end of next month. I'll bring the Joaquin again, and I'll bring Ruben again, and I'll compile new data again to look at where we are. That is my presentation for the day. I'm going to look at questions and see what questions we have. Yes.
I went ahead and posted the hot dog vendor allegory. So read that. It's very important on how you approach a market issue.
So I got two questions that I'm going to throw back at you. Ruben, one already said, I don't know if you guys do. Somebody's asking if CMG does reverse mortgages.
We do. We do reverse mortgages. They're basically FHA loans backed by Ginnie.
Okay. All right. So yes, CMG does do reverse mortgage. Commercial real estate. They're asking what is the forecast for commercial real estate. That one is a little harder to pinpoint, and I might do one on that later on the year. You gotta understand that retail's been hit very hard during this downturn, and it's gonna keep being hurt. I think I said it. You can go look at a video of mine from 2 years ago. The retail was going to change drastically because the Amazon economy was going to grow faster and faster and faster. I think that the Amazon economy, COVID-19 sort of gives steroids to the Amazon economy, and it's going to grow. So when you look at commercial real estate, I think that we're going to have to come up with some repurposing of buildings, some recreational buildings, some conversion of buildings. I was listening to a presentation yesterday regarding universities and a couple of universities that are looking to open for the next year. What they're gonna do is they're gonna lease commercial spaces and hotel spaces to conduct classes in smaller settings to be able to reopen next year. So it's gonna be an interesting thing to see commercial real estate. I think that it's hard to put in that ball, but for example, if you looked at how Toys R Us, which is a huge retailer, and you looked at Sears, which is another huge retailer, and JCPenney, how online portals sort of made them disappear. I think commercial it's going to go have some challenges coming ahead. But my presentation today was about residential, and I wanted to share with you information on residential, so you will see where the numbers were at. Someone is asking, where can I get a list of new homes? If you're asking of builders or new construction, New Home Source, when you log into your MLS portal, there's a little icon called New Home Source, and that takes you to all the builders or new homes out there. So if each of you could be so kind and give me a closing comment, a realistic closing comment until I bring you back in 30 days. So people would,
I would love to add something to the commercial part of that. Some of you know that I used to work with CoStar and Xceligent, which put me really close with the commercial industry. And they have been preparing for the changes that are happening with the internet and the Amazon economy, as you called it. So they have been what's the word you used? Repurposing properties. If you look at parking garages, they changed in the last, I think, 10 years from being at 15-degree angles with 8-foot ceilings to being 14-foot and flat with the elevated and the angled ways in on the outside of the building, because they know that all these buildings need to be repurposed eventually. Malls are being repurposed, even though they're about to bring out the biggest ever here in Florida. So they've been getting ready for this for more than 10 years. So you're going to see some exciting things. I don't see much negativity going there.
Okay. Ruben, closing comments.
Croqueta.
Well, I think there's, again, if we look at numbers in a short term now, as opposed to the big numbers, the scary big numbers that we're going to continue to see. But if we look at the short term numbers, there's some positivity, silver linings, pink unicorns, whatever you want to call them. But, one of the great numbers I saw was yesterday that even, talking about D.R. Horton, they had an uptick in sales last week nationally. I think we're going to see, people maybe change, like kind of repurposing of the commercial business, maybe change their thoughts on where they want to live. I think Florida's in a great position beyond the fact that we have the tax benefits that we've been enjoying now for a couple of years, getting people from the Northeast. I think I see that trend continuing. And it seems like while there was and this is based on what I saw yesterday, while there's been an exit away from suburbia, it looks like there's going to be a shift moving back to suburbia now. People liking to be in a single family home with a pool and be able to walk around more so than tighter quarters in a more urban setting. So that's my last point for today. I think, get out there and work. My question to you is, what's going to happen to the people that realize they look better with a mask than without the mask? That's what I want to know.
That's a good question.
Okay. So one of the questions was that they're working with 2 home buyers and feel that prices are going to collapse. I'm going to email you this presentation. If you look at the data in this presentation, and this is not Ernesto's perspective, Joaquin's perspective, or Ruben's perspective. All economists out there don't predict any contraction of value. Only one school of thought takes us to a negative 0.01% in values. For everybody else is saying different. I'll be more than happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you. I want to thank everybody that has jumped into this presentation today. I'm going to record this and I'm going to post it in YouTube. Share it with with anybody that wants to share with buyers or sellers that they're working with. Plus, I'm gonna send to our agents the presentation so they can have it. Guys, real estate is about numbers. You got to understand supply and demand. Values only shift if supply it's created and demand it disappears, right? In closing, I want to share that one last great graph that just came out right now, and I want you to take a look at this. This is mortgage application for buyers. This is mortgage application for buyers. And I want you to follow this with me. This is the first week of March, right? First week of March, they were 5% up. The virus comes in, it contracts, it contracts, it contracts, it contracts. But something happens in mid-April. The contraction begins to disappear. The contraction turns positive 3%. And here we are, from last week to this week, buyers, confident buyers are getting qualified. These are not investors picking up cash deals. These are Joe Schmo applying for a mortgage to buy a house. And you see how that number creeps up about 10%. Any of you that has a pipeline of buyers out there, this is the time to be reaching out to them, because buyers are not going away. Buyers are coming in. And if you're being asked by sellers, should I take my home off the market and wait for all of this to be over? No, I think the correct answer is, Mr. Seller, we will conduct the proper showings with the proper safety protocols in place right now. But no, now is not the time to do this. Will the rental market slow down? No, I think the rental market, because of the current unemployment situation, there will be a demand on rental market. That what's happening in the rental market, that there's more supply than demand. So if you're asking me rental values, I think last year it was a 16% in Broward County appreciation and rents. I don't think this year we will hit that number. My name is Ernesto Vega, broker of Canvas Real Estate. I want to say thank you to Joaquin Gutierrez for always being there, and for Ruben to indulging my number lunacy every other day whenever I look at numbers and I need to bounce them off somebody. It's been a pleasure sharing this morning with you. I'll be back at the end of the month with new numbers so you can relate information based on numbers. So
And Friday.
no fear factor, numbers. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Have
guys.
a great rest of your day.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna be here Friday, Ernesto.
Yes, sir.
Tell people.